first shock coming here to Canada was the fact that newcomers are very, very underserved. Another more business relevant aspect was absence of real-time payments in Canada. This was a shock for me because it impacts cash flow, payroll, predictability, the rise of stablecoins. They're fast, cheap, transparent for cross-border trade and commerce. Is that if international payments used to take multiple days to clear and settle, now it can happen almost instantly.
Today, we are diving into the critical world of fintech investing and payment modernization, focusing on how a leading venture capital firm is backing the companies that are fixing Canada's financial infrastructure.
Canada is a great place to build fintechs, and we have all the right ingredients to do so. I think infrastructure. This means that there is ample room for innovation.
Welcome to CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today, we are diving into the critical world of fintech investing and payment modernization, focusing on how a leading venture capital firm is backing the companies that are fixing Canada's financial infrastructure. Our guest today brings a unique perspective, having transitioned from international law to early stage fintech investing. Joining us today is Khrystyna Penyk, investment associate at Luge Capital, an early stage fintech focused venture capital firm. Khrystyna's background includes legal counsel for major tech business in Ukraine and M&A law with Baker McKenzie. Having moved to Canada in 2022, she brings a passionate commitment to accelerating financial innovation in Canada, particularly for SMB sector. Today, we will discuss Khrystyna's unique journey and the opportunities here in Canada's payment ecosystem, the biggest trends in fintech investment for 2026, and how AI is reshaping financial operations for small businesses and the future of payments in Canada. Let's dive right in. Christina, welcome to the Small Business Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Christina, your journey is truly remarkable. Like having navigated a successful legal career in Ukraine and M&A, merger and acquisition law, and before moving to Canada and transitioning into a venture capital. Can you tell us a bit about your journey? Like what brought you from Ukraine to Canada and how that experience ultimately led you to become a fintech investor with Luge Capital?
Sure, I'm happy to share my story. So, as you rightly mentioned, I grew up in Ukraine. I was trained as a corporate lawyer, and I started my career in M&A with Baker McKenzie, with international law firm. Afterwards, I decided to focus on tech. So I was part of this tech holding group in Ukraine, building businesses, tech businesses, and investing in tech businesses. So really, all of this was my first exposure to how law, capital, finance, tech all interact with each other. But the real turning point happened in 2022. When Russia launched full-scale invasion on Ukraine, this forced me to move to Canada as an immigrant. And overnight, I became part of this new financial system, of this new system. And this was eye-opening in many, many ways. And I can tell you a lot about the immigration experience, but just to save time, I'm going to focus on aspects that were most relevant to my career and financial system in Canada as a whole. So probably my first shock coming here to Canada was the fact that newcomers are very, very underserved. You arrive with no credit history, no borrowing history, and therefore no ability to access financial products. This was both sad and disappointing.
That's the reality, right?
Yes, that's just the reality of being an immigrant, and it's not only part of the Canadian financial system. I think it applies to many, many countries. Another more business relevant aspect which was shocking to me was absence of real-time payments in Canada. So in Ukraine, payments settle almost instantly, both for consumers and for businesses.
Okay.
In Canada, what I've learned, it takes a few days for business payments to clear. This was a shock for me because it impacts cash flow, payroll, predictability, forecasting, everything that small business care about, right? So just like thinking about all those financial aspects of immigration and what I've learned, I've decided that I want to be part of this new financial system in Canada and maybe bring some insights and modernize it. And I've decided to become a fintech investor. So, just to wrap it up, today being a fintech investor is not only a professional choice, it's also a personal choice for me.
Right. That's really an inspiring story of an immigrant. It's a story of resilience and transition. It really highlights how diverse global experience, like you have from Ukraine, can fuel like innovation in finance. Let's look at where Luge Capital is, placing its bet for the coming year, the top fintech trends. Luge Capital is at the forefront of, identifying the next generation of financial innovators. The market is constantly shifting, like especially with the evolving, regulations and new infrastructure. What fintech trends are you most excited about going into 2025, and how are they reshaping the new way SMBs operate and access financial services?
Great question. I can probably spend days talking about the new waves in fintech innovation, but again, I'll try to focus on the ones that are most relevant to SMBs. So, the first and probably the most important shift that we are seeing happening is the change of the office of the CFO or office of the finance person within a small business per se. So imagine a small clothing business in Canada. Traditionally, their finance function lived in spreadsheet, manual reconciliations, manual invoice matching, endless back and forth with banks and suppliers and so on. Now, AI is taking most of that administrative job and automating all of it. So there are tools for automating cash flow forecasting, budgeting, invoice matching, and other tools like that too. Strategically, what this means for an SMB is that instead of a CFO having more of an administrative role within the business, now they're becoming a more strategic position. Instead of doing a lot of admin tasks, they're doing more strategic tasks and planning for the future. So this is a really exciting trend to watch, and there are lots of startups in that category. And I'll continue the next sentence. So the next one, which is also relevant mostly onto the payments part, is the rise of stablecoins. So stablecoins are becoming a new settlement layer for payments. They're fast, cheap, transparent, and they provide all that convenience.
Stable coins.
Yes,
Can you
exactly.
elaborate on this one? Like what?
Yeah, so stablecoins is a digital currency that's pegged to a value of a real fiat currency.
Okay.
So currency issued by countries.
Okay.
They're different from crypto, but they're slightly in the same category,
Mm.
right? They're not issued by countries itself. And stablecoins are getting mainstream adoption. They're adopted both by startups, by companies, and by large enterprises and financial institutions. What this means for SMBs, especially for cross border trade and commerce, is that if international payments used to take multiple days to clear and settle, now it can happen almost instantly, almost real time, just as I dreamed of when I moved from Ukraine to Canada. And maybe the last trend, which is just very early, we are seeing very early beginnings of agentic commerce. And what that means is that you're seeing agents starting to negotiate and transact on behalf of businesses and consumers. Thinking about examples and implications. For small Shopify merchants, let's say, they should be ready for the future where most of their transactional volume is coming not from consumers or like physical people acting on behalf of businesses or consumers, but from machines, from agents placing those orders. That's both scary and exciting. So all of that is pointing us in the direction where fintech is becoming invisible and is becoming part of every operation that SMB is involved in.
Building on that, Christine, Christina, like how is AI reshaping the future of fintech? Especially what are the most immediate and impactful applications of AI for like improving financial operations and risk management for small businesses?
That's a great question. And to elaborate on my previous answer, I would probably say that AI is changing the operations of a small business in two ways: how they operate and how they sell or how they transact. On the operational side, AI is becoming like a co-pilot for small businesses. We have a company in our portfolio called Optionality. It's a Montreal-based startup. They're helping SMBs prepare for sale. So what they do, they, based on your financial data, they give you insights, they give you suggestions on how to improve your financial position. They provide you potential valuation range, and they also can help you get ready for the sale. This is crucial for the business owners. It used to take lots of work hours with advisors and getting not very cheap advice from them. Now AI is just taking over that advisory role and helping them prepare for sales. So that's on the operational side. On the other side, on the transactional side, commerce side, as I mentioned, we're seeing AI agents being part of that transactional flow. What this means, practically speaking, to an SMB owner, that the SMBs have to have the infrastructure in place to fulfill those orders. And it's not that simple as it seems. So they have to have an infrastructure to verify the identity of who or actually what is placing the order, what are their purchasing limits, powers, if they're authorized to make that transaction, and ideally execute that transaction as fast as possible. And that's just the new future we're getting ready for. Lots of exciting trends to watch. But if I had to again summarize how AI is reshaping the way SME is operating, it's probably, I would say, AI is changing and helping SMEs to run faster and sell faster too.
That's a really, like powerful combination of a macro trends. It's clear that after hearing your thoughts, the focus is shifting from simple digitalization to, intelligent automation and efficiency. Hey, Canadian entrepreneurs, are you tracking the right financial innovations? Learn from Khrystyna Penyk, investment associate at Luge Capital, about the top fintech trends for 2026 and how you can leverage new AI and payment technologies to optimize your cash flow and secure your financial future. Now, the emergence of these fintechs often forces a discussion about their relationship with traditional banks. Let's explore the dynamic. For years, the narrative was fintech versus bank, right? Now, the reality appears to be shifting towards integration and partnership. How is the relationship between fintech and traditional financial institutions evolving? Is it primarily competition or collaboration, and how does this evolving dynamic ultimately benefit Canadian SMBs in terms of better services and better efficiency?
I love that question. So honestly, over the last 10 years, the dynamic has changed dramatically. Just 10 years ago, everybody was talking about the competition. Everybody was supporting this narrative. Fintechs are here to displace banks, and that's all. That's it. Right now, what we are seeing is that the most successful models, they're not about the competition, but collaboration. Let's take a step back. What fintechs and banks do the best? Fintechs have speed, and they are very efficient on solving very specific pain points. On the other hand, banks have trust, relationship, regulatory muscle, and most importantly, they have large balance sheets. So we have fintechs with speed and banks with stability. Instead of competing, they can lean into what they offer best, what they do best. And let me give you a tangible example. We have a portfolio company called Cybrid that is playing in that stablecoin space. They're providing the infrastructure for stablecoin settlements. Imagine a small Canadian business. They have an account with one of the top 5 Canadian banking institutions, and they need to pay their suppliers in Europe, for example. So they can go to that bank and provide them a direction to pay their supplier. And then if the bank is partnering with Cybrid, for example, that payment can clear and reach the supplier almost real time. And Cybrid handles all the complexity behind it, the settlement itself, the compliance, and all the complicated stuff that happens behind the front. This is fintech innovation within a financial institution. So again, to come to some conclusion here, we feel like the most innovation and the most beneficial it is for the SMB when fintechs partner with banks. So the narrative right now is not fintechs versus banks, but it's fintechs and banks together.
Yeah, and collaboration is always powerful, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like the collaboration, model is driving the best outcomes for the end customer, the small business owners. Now we will take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we will dive into the evolving payment infrastructure and how it's impacting small businesses across Canada. Stay tuned.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. Still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah. Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right into the exciting future of payments and how the modernization of Canada's payment system is going to benefit SMEs. Let's discuss on the an important area of change. The payment infrastructure itself. This is very very important. Canada's payment system is undergoing significant modernization, and understanding its operational impact on SMEs is very very crucial. Luge Capital is deeply involved in tracking modernization, and what key insights will the upcoming Canadian payment innovation report reveal about the operational needs of SMEs, and how will Canada Canada's changing payment infrastructure impact their cash flow and cross border transactions?
That's a very complicated question. But let me take a step back and tell you more about the Canadian Payment Innovations Report. So, this report is the project our team has been working on for the last couple of months. I've been personally involved in it. So, what we did, we mapped out all Canadian payment startups that emerged over 25 years. We have collected data on what they do, how much money they've raised, if they're still operational or not, what value offering they offer to their customers, and we tried to classify it and pull some insights so that we can learn and predict what's going to happen in the payment ecosystem in the future. And probably the biggest insight we've learned is that just how diverse the ecosystem have become. We have collected data on more than 330 startups and across all value chain of payments, starting from orchestration to infrastructure, ending with cross-border and B2B payments. I highly encourage the listeners to check out the report. And if I was to share some insights right now, I think the most relevant to our listeners today would be the fact that online checkout is the most well-funded and most populous category by number of startups emerging in this space. This tells us a lot about how much small businesses need innovation when it comes to the checkout experience, so better conversion rates and more modern user experiences when it comes to checkout. As you rightly pointed out, the next thing that is also very important in terms of numbers of startups is payment infrastructure and orchestration. This goes back directly to the speed of payments, compliance, fraud detection, fraud prevention. That category is the second biggest category by the number of companies. If that problem is solved, if we have better payments capabilities, then cash flow is not becoming such a big issue for our listeners, small business owners, and also cross-border speed is going to be improved dramatically. So I highly encourage to our listeners to check out our upcoming report, and I'm happy to chat with them about any of the insights.
We will also add it in the podcast description,
Yes.
so that it's easier for you guys to have an access to it.
Sure.
I believe, after listening to your insights, a modernized payment system is clearly essential for improving the transactional efficiency and global competitiveness of Canadian SMBs. Finally, let's wrap it up with your personal vision for Luge Capital and the future of finance in Canada. Christina, you have outlined a clear vision for the financial future of Canadian SMBs, one powered by innovation and the strategic investment. Looking ahead, what is your long-term vision for Luge Capital's impact on Canadian financial ecosystem?
Our vision at Luge Capital is very simple. Canada is a great place to build fintechs, and we have all the right ingredients to do so. Financial system amounts to what, 8% of Canadian GDP. This tells us that it's not only a big industry, it's a foundational industry for the country. However, there are still some areas which are not under-innovated. And by those areas, firstly, I mean infrastructure. I think I mentioned this today, but a lot of Canadian infrastructure, specifically on payments, is still tied to the legacy systems. This means that there is ample room for innovation for new entrants and new startups. The second area, which also excites us a lot, is emergence of verticalized fintech. This means solution for specific verticals like fintech for healthcare, fintech for construction, fintech for agriculture, fintech for professional services. We are seeing lots of opportunities on those intersections between different industries in this fintech. We are very eager to make bets in those spaces and support founders that build companies in those spaces. And once they do, I'm sure they're not going to be just in Canada, they're going to set global standards.
That's an inspiring vision, Christina. Thank you for sharing us, focusing on, building foundational financial excellence. And your commitment to, celebrating financial innovation is clearly positioning the Luge Capital, as a critical force in building a more efficient and, prosperous future for Canadian businesses. Christina, is there is one key message you want, Canadian SME listeners to remember about shaping their financial future, with confidence? What would it be?
That's a great question. I guess my key message to the listeners would be don't be afraid to innovate. Whether it's how you run your business, how you run your marketing, how you move money, or what technology you rely on, every step toward innovation pays off.
Okay, and what is your, key piece of advice for aspiring and other women entrepreneurs who have, migrated from
Yeah.
other countries?
Come and talk to me. I'm going to tell you all about my experience, and don't be afraid. There's lots of opportunity for you to earn your place and become a huge success.
Thank you so much for sharing your advice with our listeners. It has been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you for sharing your expertise and vision with all our listeners.
Thank you so much. It was a great time having this discussion and can't wait to stay in touch and learn more.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
That was an insightful conversation with Khrystyna Penyk, investment associate at Luge Capital, on the Canadian fintech landscape, fintech investing trends in 2026, the intersection of fintech and AI, and the future of payments. Thank you for tuning in to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. We appreciate your continued support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more expert insights and resources that can help your business thrive. You can also visit our website CanadianSME.ca for more valuable information, tools, and resources. A special thank you to our podcast partners, RBC, UPS, A1 Global College, ADP, and Google for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses in Canada. Until next time, keep innovating and striving for success. See you in the next episode.